Thank you for returning to our service. Today, we will examine the remarkable yet difficult life of John Paul Jones. John Paul Jones's journey was fraught with controversy and issues. He plays a significant role in Led Zeppelin and is renowned for his incredible talent. The tale of Joan is one of tenacity, ingenuity, and fortitude. It begins with his early passion for music and spans the highs and lows of his Led Zeppelin career. He continues to have a significant influence on the music industry. Come along as we examine John Paul Jones' complex life and highlight his accomplishments and unspoken challenges. Let's follow along. When he was a member of Led Zeppelin, John Paul Jones did not exactly fit in with the other band members' wild partying and seductive rock and roll lifestyle. He was more of a family man and avoided having sex after drug-fueled performances. Instead, he distanced himself from the band, frequently changing his hair to avoid being identified and spending his days alone in cities. If John Paul Jones had been spotted with the other band members, many people would have recognized him. The rest of the band would frequently reserve rooms on different floors or, in Jones' case, in a different hotel because of Bonham's extremely poor behavior while on tour. As he grew older, he began to travel alone and reserve his own accommodations. Only during sound checks and after gigs did the band say goodbye to him at a new location. Following Led Zeppelin, John Paul Jones and Plant's friendship reached an all-time low. Page and Plant recorded No Quarter in the mid-1990s without consulting John Paul Jones. Since his song from Led Zeppelin was No Quarter, this was an insult. He composed it and performed on the keyboards. Page and Plant were questioned regarding John Paul Jones during these interviews. Inductee of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. When the band was honored in 1995, Plant claimed to have been parking automobiles. It was before the 2007 show honoring Ahmet Erdogan that they reconciled, although John Paul Jones remarked when he received his medal, "Thank you for remembering my phone number." Plant even knelt down to beg for forgiveness from John Paul Jones. In 2015, John Paul Jones and his wife, Maureen Hegarty, celebrated their 50th wedding anniversary. Few rock stars achieve this significant milestone. This demonstrates how his life differs greatly from that of the other band members. Years spent with family and school. Born in Sidcup, Kent, England, on January 3, 1946, John Paul Jones, real name John Baldwin, was destined to become a musician. Jones's parents were both vocalists. Thus, he was exposed to music at a very young age. His mother sang and danced, and his father, Joe Baldwin, played the piano and organized large ensembles. When he was 5 years old, his father began training him to play the piano, and by the time he was 10, his mother was teaching him to play the saxophone. At the age of 14, John began playing in bands after learning how to play the bass. At Christ College, Blackheath, Jones developed his writing, orchestration, and music theory abilities. Because his father was a musician, Jones's family traveled around a lot. Jones had the opportunity to hear a wide range of musical genres and influences as a result. Despite having a solid musical foundation, Jones struggled to find opportunities and consistency in his career. Before Led Zeppelin made him famous, they were just starting off in their careers. John Paul Jones's career in the music industry was lengthy and fascinating. He was a studio musician and arranger for numerous performers in the early 1960s. His ability to play a variety of instruments, including guitar, bass, and piano, allowed him to succeed in the competitive music industry. His playing has been included on songs by the Rolling Stones, Donovan, Jeff Beck, and Dusty Springfield, among others. Jones was a highly sought-after session musician due to his versatility. In 1964, as John Paul Jones, he released his debut solo song, Baja, which he would later choose to keep forever. In order to demonstrate his versatility as a musician, he also served as musical director for a number of television programs during this time. Alongside Jimmy Page, Robert Plant, and John Bonham, John Paul Jones joined Led Zeppelin in 1968. This well-known band suddenly gained a lot of popularity. Jones's inventive piano playing and intricate bass playing were very beneficial. Hits like Whole Lot of Love, Kashmir, and Stairway to Heaven demonstrated his artistic talent. Despite Led Zeppelin's triumph, life wasn't always simple. Numerous issues were brought up by the constant travel schedule and internal arguments. Jones, who was frequently the band's quiet, collected member, played a crucial role in keeping the group cohesive when things became wild. His background as an arranger and session musician allowed him to significantly impact the band's releases, frequently by creating challenging musical arrangements. Power and success. Led Zeppelin was adored by a vast number of individuals worldwide. Shows were sold out and millions of albums were sold. However, difficulties and a great deal of strain accompanied this accomplishment. Jones contributed to the band's songwriting and arrangement in addition to playing music. His influence extended beyond rock to other genres of music. One of John Paul Jones's greatest achievements was the diversity of songs produced by Led Zeppelin. To create the ensemble a unique sound, he blended elements of jazz, classical, folk, and blues music. However, this diversity also led to creative disputes with other team members. Jones frequently preferred more intricate and imaginative arrangements, but Jimmy Page preferred a more straightforward and unpolished rock sound. These disparate musical conceptions caused issues during recording sessions, particularly on tracks like Physical Graffiti and Houses of the Holy. For example, Page wanted to maintain the hard rock concept, whereas Jones wanted to include additional orchestral elements and intricate keyboard pieces. This creative struggle led to some of the band's most inventive work, but it also created issues. During the recording of In Through the Outdoor, Jones became increasingly involved in songwriting and arranging, which led to additional issues. Jones and Plant took the lead on numerous tracks due to Page and Bonham's frequent absences. Members who preferred the band's more conventional sound were not thrilled with the new sound that was produced. Rock bands should perform live, but everyone finds travel to be extremely difficult. Despite their passion for music, Led Zeppelin members had to travel great distances to perform night after night, which was extremely taxing. John Bonham, the drummer, was particularly impacted by the mid-1970s. He often expressed to the band his desire to leave due to the pressure of performing constantly and his wish to spend more time with his family. Bonham found it more difficult because he was growing increasingly reliant on alcohol and narcotics. The band's manager, Peter Grant, frequently had to entice him to return with cash or pricey presents like a Lamborghini. Despite their best efforts, the continuous traveling had a negative impact on Bonham and the band as a whole. Behind the scenes, Stripe's connections were not good at all. John Paul Jones discussed his time with the band in a 2007 interview with Q, stating that the members were not particularly close off stage. He said of his friends Robert Plant and Jimmy Page, "We get along great. We have never really hung out with other people. Once we got off the road, we never saw each other again, which I always thought helped the band stay together and sound good. We were not buddies." Jones said that their friendship at work was more like that of coworkers than close friends. It wasn't like a group of kids who grew up together and became famous. He said, although Led Zeppelin wasn't made in a factory, Jimmy put them together. In the middle to late 1970s, when the band was working on their albums, appearance, and In Through the Outdoor, the tension within the group grew stronger. Members' different ways of life caused even more conflict. Plant and Jones were more serious about their recording sessions, while Page and Bonham liked to party late into the night. These disagreements within the group caused inefficiency and made people more angry with each other. According to Jones, the band often worked like ships that went by during the night. Page and Bonham recorded their parts during late-night sessions, while Jones and Plant liked having more controlled studio time. Also, Jones said that these problems weren't just with Led Zeppelin, but with a lot of popular bands. Led Zeppelin's journey is a serious reminder of the problems that great bands have to deal with. It is important to recognize and deal with these problems in order to protect both the members' health and the music they make. Jones also saw the tension between Robert Plant and Jimmy Page rising, which added to the problems within the band. Plant was getting more and more angry at Page for using drugs more and acting strangely, which led to a lot of fights. Plant was having a harder time dealing with the band's crazy schedule because he had been through some terrible things in his personal life, like losing his son and getting into a major car accident. Pius, on the other hand, had a hard time staying creative with his songs while also having problems with drugs. Jones often had to be the middleman between them, try to keep the band's attention on their singing even though they were fighting. The stress was at its highest during the recording of In Through the Outdoor, when Page and Bonham were missing a lot and Plant and Jones had to take on more work. Career as a solo artist and with others. After the sad death of drummer John Bonham in 1980, Led Zeppelin broke up. John Paul Jones continued his musical journey and built a successful and varied solo career. His life was full of both obstacles and big wins, which showed how versatile and creative he was. He worked with a lot of different types of acts after Led Zeppelin and became famous for his work as a producer, arranger, and session musician. Among the artists and acts he worked with were Cinderella, R.E.M., Peter Gabriel Hart, and Lenny Kravitz. Each project showed off a different part of his musical skill, ranging from complicated bass lines to keyboard arrangements and orchestral pieces. When Jones's first solo album, Zuma, came out in 1999, it was the start of his real solo success. The strong bass-driven tracks on this record, which mixed rock, jazz, and classical influences, were a bold statement of his instrumental and compositional skills. The record got good reviews for taking new approaches and showed that Jones could make interesting music when he wasn't playing with Led Zeppelin. Jones' second record by himself, The Thunder Thief, came out in 2001. With progressive rock, funk, and experimental music on this album, he continued to explore his wide range of musical tastes. Jones proved once again that he was a strong solo artist with The Thunder Thief, not afraid to go beyond the limits of common music styles. Besides his solo records, Jones worked on a lot of well-known projects. In 2009, he formed the band Them Crooked Vultures with Dave Grohl of Foo Fighters and Josh Homme of Queens of the Stone Age. This was one of his most important achievements. The band's self-titled debut record did well both with critics and with fans. Rock sound that was raw and powerful and relied on the strengths of all three players. Jones' bass, piano, and backing vocals were important parts of the band's unique sound. Jones has also worked with other people and done live shows. He went on a few trips with the band C6 Steve, adding his own style to their blues rock sound. He was also very important in planning and singing at charity events and tribute concerts, often with other famous musicians. Jones stayed relevant and important in the ever-changing music scene during his single career by being able to play many instruments and being open to trying out new musical styles. His dedication to discovering new musical styles and his work with a wide range of acts meant that his legacy went far beyond his time with Led Zeppelin. John Paul Jones was still an important and innovative person in music. Even though he had to deal with problems like having to live up to his legacy with Led Zeppelin and the changing nature of the music business, fans and musicians all over the world are still inspired by his unwavering drive for creativity and greatness. Personal life. When it came to relationships and marriage, John Paul Jones did not have as many complicated and public affairs as a lot of other famous people. Maureen Hegarty, his wife, was the only love of his life until the end. John Paul Jones did not have a lot of complicated and shocking relationships like a lot of other famous people do. Maureen Hegarty, his wife, was the only person he loved until the end. It was 1967 when John Paul Jones married Maureen Hegarty in England. Maureen Hegarty came from a middle-class family. Both of her parents worked in teaching. Both of her parents taught. Her dad taught high school, and her mom taught grade school. Maureen worked as a nurse before she met John Paul Jones. She loved her job and was respected by both her coworkers and her patients. The first time they met was at a music party in the early 1960s. They were drawn to each other right away because they both liked art and music. They fell in love quickly and chose to get married in 1967 when Jones's music career was really taking off. However, their marriage had many problems, such as the stresses of being popular and the inability to keep the family stable. Their three girls are an actress on stage and TV named Justinda, born 1968, a high school teacher named Kira, born 1970, and a graphic designer named Tamara, born 1972. Even though he has a busy job, Jones has always put his family first, making sure they have a close-knit and helpful home life. Like a lot of musicians who spend a lot of time touring, John Paul Jones had to figure out how to balance his work life with his home life. The constant traveling and recording with Led Zeppelin, along with the rock and roll way of life, made his marriage difficult. During the 1970s, rock stars' lives were often full of pitfalls such as drug use and affairs with other women. Compared to some of his bandmates, Jones was able to keep a low image. However, these pressures had an effect on his personal life. Morin and John had to deal with these problems together, including times when they were apart and the challenges of having a family while John was on tour a lot. It took a lot of work and talking to each other all the time to keep their marriage stable and trusting. Even with all of these problems, they have been together for over 50 years, which shows how much they love each other. So, it's known that the Jones family is very close and helps each other out. Morin and Jones decided to keep their personal life out of the public eye so that they could give their children a stable and safe home life. But it wasn't always easy to balance work and family life, and it was hard to keep the peace in the family. Legacy and impact. John Paul Jones is known as one of the best players in rock history. His contributions to music have won him many awards and praise from musicians all over the world. Getting to this level of fame wasn't always easy, though. Jones had to deal with a lot of problems and challenges along the way. Not only is Jones famous for being a very good musician, but also for being humble and loving music very much. Throughout his work, he was always looking for new ways to make music and express himself. This never-ending search for new ideas helped him have a long and successful career in the music business. He left behind more than just the famous songs of Led Zeppelin. He had a big impact on music all over the world. His influence on later artists and bands is one of the most important parts of John Paul Jones' legacy. A lot of artists have been influenced by his complex bass methods and songwriting skills. Jones' work, for instance, has been studied by many bassists who want to learn how to combine physical skill with musical creativity. Also, he was one of the first rock artists to mix classical and folk music with rock. This led to many other musical experiments and innovations that mix genres. The way he listened to music with a critical eye and high standards shows how Jones had an effect on him. A well-known story shows this very clearly. Jones went to see Metallica play in London in 1987 as a fan. Jones shook his head and said, "That's it," when someone recognized him and asked what he thought of Metallica's show. His critical nature and his unwaveringly high standards for great music are shown by this short statement. The music business will never be the same after John Paul Jones's work with Led Zeppelin and on his own projects. Musicians all over the world are still influenced and inspired by what he did, so his impact will last for many years to come. John Paul Jones is still working in the music business and is always looking for new musical styles. He still works with a lot of different acts from different genres, showcasing his flexibility and unwavering love for music. Jones has been a performer and a director on a lot of different projects. He got together with Dave Grohl of Foo Fighters and Josh Homme of Queens of the Stone Age in 2009 to make the supergroup Them Crooked Vultures. Their self-titled album got good reviews. This project showed that Jones can stay current and creative in the music scene, which is always changing. In addition to working with other artists, Jones often performs at music festivals and charity events, often surprising the crowd with spontaneous sets. In his spare time, he also helps develop the next wave of musical talent by mentoring young musicians and sharing his vast knowledge and experience. Jones loves music so much that he writes music for films and TV shows. His creative and in-depth work in this area has been praised, adding to his already amazing body of work. Jones makes sure to spend valuable time with his family. Even though he has a lot going on at work and in his personal life, he was able to keep his personal life stable and peaceful while also doing well at work, as shown by his long-lasting marriage to Morin and the success of his children. Musicians and fans alike are still moved and inspired by what he did for the genre. John Paul Jones is a living legend whose amazing ability and hard work have left an indelible mark on rock history. Thanks for joining us as we learn about this amazing musician's life. Feelings about John Paul Jones's trip. Leave your thoughts below, and don't forget to join for more stories that will inspire you. We will see you in the next film.